we are streaming. I have to pick up with the screen.
Okay, you're an organizer.
Where'd you go? Do you want to
No, I was
Hello everyone, welcome to the New York City Accessibility Meetup. Thank you all for joining tonight. Wanted to start by saying thank you also to ThoughtBot for generously hosting us in this beautiful space. Thank you, ThoughtBot. We are live streaming the event, so hello to the internet. Also I wanted to do a couple practical notes. The bathrooms are right behind the kitchen here. They are gender neutral bathrooms, so if you feel welcome to use either bathroom. If you're more comfortable locking the door, there are locks on the door. And also, let's see, thank you to SSB BART for their ongoing sponsorship of the event. Now, oh, yes, and our two friends on either end of the room here, Mirabai, who works with white coat captioning, is behind these awesome captions here. Thank you, Mirabai. And Jolly is our amazing partner in crime doing the video streaming on behalf of the Internet Society of New York. So with that, I'd like to introduce Damian Sian. He's going to talk about building an accessible document workflow. Thanks, Damian.
Thank you. As Cameron mentioned, we're going to be talking about building accessible document workflow, specifically PDF document workflow. I'll give you a quick introduction for myself. I am currently serving as the Senior Web Accessibility Advisor at Princeton University, newly minted as of October 17th. Thank you. I do have my certification from IAAP, the International Association of Accessibility Professionals. And that would be the CPACC, the Certified Practitioner of Accessibility Core Concepts. I got that one right, Brian? Excellent. I think that's it. I do have a lot of experience in leading graphic teams, teams of graphics professionals, so within creative agencies, particularly with a production studio. So I'll go over what that means. I'm going to break this presentation into two sections. The upfront part will be process and workflow. So we'll deal with mapping PDF accessibility to the process of the creative process, and specifically with the creative roles and the team members within that process. We'll talk about how do we map WCAG standards to PDF, right? There is no PCAG. I don't have a PDF content accessibility guideline, unfortunately. So I'm going to give you a tool tonight, too, that you'll be able to download after the presentation that does that mapping. Okay, so we'll talk also about building a RACI, so responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, for those different roles within the creative team. And then the second half will be practical examples. So I have 3 tools to show you tonight. We're going to review how to build an accessible color palette. We're going to talk about an InDesign plugin called Axio Made to Tag. And we're going to talk about another InDesign plugin called Forms Maker Pro. And they solve some really big problems in accessibility for PDFs for a pretty low cost. So a lot of return on that. So someone here challenged me before we even started tonight and said PDF accessibility isn't an oxymoron. And this is an actual quote. So in the Accessing Higher Ground conference, there's a speaker, and I was attending remotely, and I asked the speaker, is MathML, so math markup language, supported in Acrobat? And that's what he said to me. PDFs are just pretty pictures. So we have some ground to cover as an industry about what we can and can't do in PDF. So let's talk about what we can't do, right? What are the problems with PDF? And I'm not here to I'm not a shill for Adobe or anything here. So the user experience. PDFs take users out of the web experience into an orphaned page. True. User experience is hampered by PDF in a lot of ways. You're in this great UI, this great UX, and then you're in a PDF. How do you get back? There's a lot of problems with that. Unresponsive. Yeah, PDFs are static. They cannot dynamically flow into viewports or present content in context to a user interaction. Sorry. So they look horrible on mobile. True. This is very true. ARIA support. So if you think of ARIA as like an accessibility markup language, none of it goes over the PDF. So we do a lot of kind of hacky workarounds in PDF and accessibility. And I'm going to show you so many of them tonight. So why am I here talking about PDF accessibility if you've got all these problems with it? So the next quote on my screen is, "Very few love PDF, but we all need it because PDF is electronic paper." That's a quote by Duff Johnson. It's a very good analogy, right? So a PDF is a render of the printed page, essentially. Okay, it is almost like a pretty picture of a printed page, and there are times when that's extremely advantageous to have. Portability. Everyone should hopefully know what the P in PDF stands for. It's a portable document format. So that same thing that was a hindrance, that unresponsiveness, is actually a benefit as well. There are times when I need to have that document look exactly the same on mobile, on Chrome, on Firefox. Okay, the barrier to entry for someone to create a PDF is a lot lower than HTML. So Jennison Accounting can make a PDF. We can use commercially available software to create PDFs: Microsoft Word, InDesign, Acrobat. Okay, I don't have to have a dev and a QA environment and infrastructure and teams of people to do release management for me for this. We can be quick and down and dirty. Regulatory requirements. There are times when you are mandated to produce a document and give it to the public. You have to have an electronic representation of that document look exactly the same as the print piece. An annual report and proxy statement. Okay, SEC requirement has to look exactly the same. And there are also other formats where it's just a benefit to have that look and feel of, excuse me. So on the train ride here, I was doing some research about good and bad. Oop, I'm so sorry. The good and bad of PDF, and I found this quote from Jacob Nielsen. Thank you, Mr. Nielsen. PDF files make usability approximately 300% worse compared to the HTML. So Adobe has a patent apparently to reach out and smack you across the face with a PDF because the user experience is so bad. But he does go on to talk about some areas where they're needed, and in further research on that piece, what are the good places for PDF? White papers, and I found out this cool piece of research here about how to conduct eye tracking studies from it's from the Nielsen Group. Fancy that. So there are times when you need PDFs, and just out of curiosity, was there PDF accessible, do you think?
Yes.
Absolutely not. This PDF was an enemy of accessibility. I'm sorry. There's nothing about it that was accessible. Two could play that game. Nielsen. Nielsen. So WCAG. How does WCAG apply to the PDF? Like I said, there's no PCAG. I don't have a separate standard to the guy. I say to the working group WCAG guy. I'm frequently shoehorned into these different success criteria. Sorry. So PDFs can do things like animation and video, and we can do like buttons for navigation and stuff like that. But it's really the outlier, and I personally don't recommend it. So we kind of have to go backward compatible with a lot of these success criteria and say, here's the thing that was written for the web, and here's how we can apply it to the PDF. And there's a gap that exists then too. The WCAG was written for web developers. Web developers don't make PDFs. We have a different group of people that do that. Okay, it's a complete different set of people, set of talents, set of skills, strengths, weaknesses. And I'm going to kind of explore that tonight. So let's talk about the tasks of PDF accessibility. I would recommend that you break them into two major categories of visual impact and non-visual impact. And then you would front load those items that have a visual impact into your creative workflow. So before you were to transfer a file for a client review, you would have checked those things that have a visual impact. All right? And then those things that have a non-visual impact, if you can set a good relationship with an expectation, if you can manage an expectation, you could tell those reviewers that those non-visual accessibility aspects can be handled prior to release. Right? So there should be no change visually in the file they get. And here, at this point, I'm going to jump out to Microsoft Excel. I use Excel, for lack of a better format for this. And here, I broke down the major tasks of accessibility in PDF into 14 unique steps. And then I gave, in the next column, kind of like I think it'd be better formatted as a user story, but I wrote kind of like a natural language of what is that task? What does it do? Why am I doing it? So I always put document title at the first of all my tasks. There is some visual part of that because the document title appears in the document window of a PDF. So you don't want the file name to occur there when you give it to a client. And I make a lot of mistakes in that. So one of the things I'm kind of famous for is taking an old document, using it for the new document, and forget to go in and change the title and the metadata. So I put that at the top of my task list. And you can see that these first three tasks do have a visual impact. So color, obviously, color is a sole means of communication, and color contrast. And links. So links should be visually distinguishable from their surroundings. And they should avoid things like click here. So you should have a stronger call to action in your links than read more, click here. Same for PDF, same for web. The next column, what I did, is I'll read the first one here. So document title. The page title will be read aloud by the non-sighted user's screen reader and visible to all sighted users in the document window instead of the file name, which is the default condition. So all these tasks have that natural language to them. What you can start to do there is to build your own standard operating procedure or embed this into your contract language when you work with vendors as well. So if you're trying to describe to someone who's never done this work before, you're like, okay, I see that I have something to do. Why do I have to do that? So in that column, I'm trying to give the user impact. And then the shoehorning of we have these WCAG requirements that are written for the web, and now they're being applied to the PDF. So I've given that column to say, here's the task, and here are the things that the WCAG requirements, or success criteria, which I always equate immediately to the word requirement, the things that I have to do to make the document conform. So in this case, document title is success criterion, 2.4.2 page title. So level A requirement or success criteria. The W3C does have PDF techniques listed out. A lot of those techniques are about manually editing the Acrobat file, the PDF, after you've exported it from Word or InDesign, which I'm not an advocate of. I would think that you could have a vendor do that kind of work. I like to remediate the Word file or the InDesign file. And every single thing I'm going to show you tonight is about remediating a source file. Then the next column will be the automated task, or the automated test. So Adobe Acrobat does ship with an automated checker. It does some good things, but it's very misleading if you think that if you pass that checker, you have an accessible document. I would say about 20 to 25% of the actual things that are wrong are going to be flagged in that automated check.
What if you don't have the actual source? Because that often happens, obviously, if you're browsing the web, you're not the content creator, you're the receiver of this, so you don't have a choice. I mean, what do you do about that?
You can remediate an Acrobat file, and you could do it.
You're reverse engineering this?
You are. I mean, Acrobat ships with tools that do it. The touch-up reading order tool will walk you through the steps of tagging all the content. You can get a tool like Common Look PDF Global Access, which will walk you through the steps and has a lot of strong tools in that as well. If you're doing especially like a lot of documents or a document with a lot of pages. But I mean, always try. The moral of my story here is, and I would say, look into a vendor relationship as well with a company like BrailleWorks. It's a great company. They do about 9,000 documents a day. They have very affordable prices. I've worked with them. Extremely high quality work as well. Okay, so automated tests. I'm going to go over what the automated test for this first one. I'll just give you an idea of how the rest of these flow. So the automated check for document title checks whether there is a title in the document window, the document metadata, and if that title is displayed in the document window. So a failure would be if the open options are not set to allow the document title to be up in that window, or if you didn't put the title and the metadata of the file. That's what the automated check would do. So flag A is on, flag B is on. You have a title, it's in the document window, success. But what if the title is gibberish, or you've done what I do all the time, and it's an old document title, you messed up. So the manual test, verify the title is meaningful. And in that place, I also put a best practice. Use the H1 of the document as a title, okay? And this document, which I'm going to give you guys as a resource, every step is listed out like that. So it has the step, when you should do it, how you're solving for accessibility and inclusive design, what the automated test will do, what it won't do, and then how you, for the areas of deficit in the automated test, does a manual test solve for that? Make sense? Good. All right, so this file as well will be available. So the deck will be available online, and all the links out will be available online for you as well. Okay. So let's talk about the creative team that makes PDFs. And this is kind of like an archetype, and in the way that I look at the workflow. You might have one person do all these things. Okay, I'd hope they would do them at different times, at the very least. You might have two people that do these. Okay, so RACI stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consulted, Informed. And in the task of making an accessible PDF, what I would consider the production person has the most responsibility. Okay, the management would be the most accountable, design would be the most consulted, and the proofreading would be the most informed. And if you look at the spreadsheet that I've given you, each one of those tasks will say that, so for metadata, the person responsible for that is a production, person accountable is the management, the designer is informed, and a copy and proofreader task would be consulted. So I've done that for all of those pieces, and we'll take a closer look now, if that's confusing, into what that actually means. So a production artist, now you may or may not in your workflows in a creative team have a production studio. If you don't have a production studio, you at least should have someone who fits this bill. The production artist is typically the most well-versed in Adobe InDesign, Microsoft Office, and Adobe Acrobat. So they're early adopters of those types of graphic communication software. They deal with applying industry-specific requirements to PDF. So if you have a team of people in your workflow that would take a PDF and send it to a magazine and convert it to PDF X1A, and the document that you sent them and the document you got back look identical, and you ask, well, what did they do? That's the person that is the most responsible for accessibility. Okay, a lot of the tasks that you do in PDF accessibility have no visual bearing on the file. So you would give me the file, it would come back the same file size, hopefully, maybe a little bit bigger, but it have no visual changes. Okay, the management team. So these would be project managers, traffic managers, account executives. In the kind of CYA model, they have the most A on the line, right? So they're most accountable, and they're the people that are making deals with your clients, right? They're the ones that are going to present your work to somebody and say, this is accessible. I have an attestation document from my production person that this is good to go, right? So they're accountable for accessibility. I expect those people to have no technical knowledge of accessibility required. Design teams would be creative directors, art directors, graphic designers. So these are people who are connected to the brand, essentially. They own the color palette. They would arbitrate any type of decision that would have to be made when visual consideration is on the line, especially if there's any impact on the brand. And then copy and proofreading I put into one bucket because I needed to, because it fit my little racy thing nicely. The people who deal with words, okay? So copywriters should be the people who do all text. You shouldn't have someone like a production person writing the alternative text. It's a wasted opportunity. They should also be the people who author link text. If they're going to do calls to action, and my defect is read more is not descriptive, then a copywriter can say, they're connected to the creative brief and they're connected to the purpose of the brand, everything else, then they should be the one writing that. And then proofreaders. We have alternative text on images, usually manually keyed in. That has to get proofread. And I have a tool that I can show you within the Axio meta tag, and if we have more time at the end, I can show you a format to export the PDF from where you can read all the alternative text in plain text. Or you can train them to right-click on the tag and look at the properties on any image, which is probably not going to happen. Document titles, keyed in incorrectly all the time by me, and other areas that can go wrong in that. And then, as one of my friends pointed out to me, color as a sole means of communication, excellent thing for them to be looking at, and any kind of sensory characteristic within the text. If you're expecting the people who work on those non-visible attributes to catch that kind of stuff, you're completely off base. So as a production artist, I would never, ever, ever, ever read the content. I've actually trained myself over 15 years to not read content. I'm looking at line endings, ragging, orphans, widows, tons of typographical considerations that I'm making, hundreds of operations. Reading your content is never going to be one of those. Question?
Yeah. So how does data entry play a role into this? Because PDFs do have forms and typically online form filling. So I'm not sure how in this process does that work.
I've got the whole last section on forms.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, but
No, you didn't. I didn't have the agenda out, so.
But I just didn't know how that works in this format that you're talking about process-wise, because this is
100% on the production person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100%. And a little bit on the copyright, the copy and the proofreader and the copywriter. So you have to put descriptive language onto each form field. So it would be helpful to have a copywriter kind of craft that. So if I open up my screen reader and I pull up a list of all the form elements, I want them to be descriptive by standing alone. And then the proofreading element, which I can show you as well, on how to have them proofread as plain text. Because all the descriptions of those can come out as a plain text.
But there's that keyboarding aspect of which fields go, which
Tab order?
Yeah, tab order.
Production artist, production person. Because they're the ones setting up the articles pane or the structure pane, and they're also the one who's going to do the QA on that. No, please. Thank you for asking good questions. Okay, so the last piece of that puzzle on the process and operation type workflow would be vendors. So, so if you're building a contract, an RFP, a master service agreement, a statement of work, anything like that, and the vendor is producing a PDF for you, you have to obviously ask them to make it WCAG 2.0 level AA compliant. I mean, obviously, but my suggestion to you is that you use that exact language. And that you would, and their warranty of conformance would be an attestation to that effect, that they will produce a document to you in such a way. What do you accept as proof of that? Okay, I am comfortable. Ooh, did I touch my mic? I'm comfortable accepting the automated checker report, which has 29 automated checks, and then 2 manual checks. So you right-click and you manually pass 2, color and reading order. I'm comfortable with that if the vendor agrees to, when they pass those 2 manual checks, that they're passing all of those manual gates every single one of these. All right, so that would have to be built into that language. So you're building a contract, you're building a master service agreement, statement of work, RFP. Feel free to take the document that I've given you and deconstruct it and build it into your own process. And start putting people on the line. Okay, so vendors out there can't keep saying, I don't know what that means. It's time to learn. All right, so I'm going to get into the practical examples. Any questions on the process workflow? All right, so this is, I guess, a tool, a process that I'm going to describe to you. And I'll first describe the need for it. Working with color, you have to have proper contrast for headline text versus body text. And if you are in a brand, you have approved colors that you're allowed to use. That's usually produced in something called a brand style guide. So I went online and I looked up quickly, a sufficient example of brand style guides. And this is Pfizer's from 2009. Hopefully you guys won't sue me for showing. It's on the internet, right? So it has to be free. And I picked it because they listed all the hex values very nicely for me. I was like, oh, sweet. I'll just take those and I'll run this tool on that. So this would be all the colors as an internal designer that you'd be allowed to use, or an external vendor partner of Pfizer's that you'd be allowed to use. So we need to find the pairs of colors that are allowable within the success criteria 1.4.3. Right? So I have to have them all be contrast compliant. So I'll show you now a tool to do that. So the first thing I did was come in here and just nab out all of those hex values. Right? Just copied it and pasted it to a text file. Pasted in the hex value, comma, space, and wash, rinse, repeat. And then I would bring it to this cool tool online. All right, this is, from what I can tell, a free tool that's very nice that the North Carolina State University has published that will allow you to paste in all those nice hex values that you just grabbed out of there. And then say, I want level AA compliant contrast pairs, not AAA. Right? That would be like 7:1 would be the lowest contrast ratio. It's very hard to follow. Okay, so then it does this nice little trick here where it evaluates every single hex value against all the other hex values, and then you have all your passings and all your failures. I don't know what am I going to do with all the failures, right? So I want all the passes, because now I have everything that's compliant and legal in my entire process. So from there, I go, and I'll make this a little bit bigger for you so you can see it. So I copied and pasted them all into an Excel file. And I divvied them out if they pass for large text, which would be your headlines, versus your small text, which would be your body copy. But then you get some real like nightmare juice, right? I don't know why you'd want purple and green. That's not good. So I put a column in here and I said, is it pretty? Yay or nay, right? Keep or kill it. If it's gross like that, if it's a purple and green, I don't want it as part of my brand, even though it's compliant. It's their logo, yeah. That's outside the scope of 1.4.3, so you can do whatever the hell you want.
You're taking it off the webpage, right? It might have.
Well, so let me show you what I did with that content. So if this was the color guide, so I have the brand style guide, and I have information about how to use the logo, what type to use, how do you do this, how do you do that. Here's all your colors you can use. The next page that I would suggest in there would be this page. Show me all the accessible color pairs at large text and all the accessible color pairs at small text. Have this available for all your internal designers. Have this available for all your vendor partners. So now you have your sandbox defined well about what you can use as a designer. So you're setting up new styles. That's for both web and for PDF. Any questions on that? Why you would do this, or what the value of this would be?
How long did that take you?
I feel like less than half an hour. I go pretty quick when I copy and paste. But I would do this once. I mean, how often do your brand colors change? Not often. Yeah. If someone was a good developer, they could probably figure out what the people at North Carolina State University did, and then put a tool in there that would just have all the passes, and then give you a button and say, do I like it or not? And then you could pump it right out.
Good side project, Cameron.
Hope you guys wrote down all those business requirements I just gave you, and next time I see you, I'll have a nice tool. Thank you. And it'll take no time at all. It'll just push a button.
I'll write it down for you.
I mean, it'd be cool too if you could just have it like a JavaScript that would just evaluate your page and like, poof, here's all your accessible. Anyway, we'll talk, right? So yeah, recommend doing that. And that process, just so you know, so I went quickly through that. There's a document that I'll give you that steps out exactly how to do it, painstakingly. Screenshots, everything you need, all the links that you need, and exactly how I did it. I know I went quickly, but I only have 45 minutes, so that's for you all. All right. The next tool I'm going to show you is a plugin called Axio Made to Tag. The company is called Axio. The tool is called Made to Tag. This is a company in Germany, and they produce a plugin to Adobe InDesign that sits inside of InDesign that walks you through all the tasks of accessibility. It also does some things that you can't do today in InDesign at all, that you would have to do after you made the PDF. Okay? And also, one of the coolest things that it does is it can tag complex tables and build a parent-child relationship with cell IDs directly in InDesign, which is something that's only available today using the touch-up reading order tool or using a tool like Common Look. And the touch-up reading order tool would take hours, and Common Look would have to be run every single time you make the PDF. You'd have to manually set the parent-child relationship. So this will give you the native file where you can get that control and that freedom to have a repeatable, accessible result. So there's a huge efficiency multiplier in this tool and a huge quality multiplier in this tool. So I'm going to jump over to Adobe InDesign. Right, and I will open up Made to Tag. Sorry, my screen's a little bit smaller than I'm used to dealing with it. You have to forgive me. So as you can see, on my screen, Made to Tag is inside of Adobe InDesign. So I don't have to jump out to another tool. Like right now, if I make a PDF from InDesign, I have to go from InDesign to Acrobat, do all my testing, and then come back and fix any problems that I found. This will allow me to find those problems and to do that work inside of InDesign. And they've broken, so I had my steps broken into 14 steps. They have theirs broken into 7 with some supporting features. The first thing they do is they help you to take your paragraph styles and map them to export tags. Now, that's something you can do manually in InDesign without this tool. But this is walking through and prompting you to do it and giving you a tool that's visible in its own kind of secluded space of accessibility. The next thing it would do would to help you build the logical reading order of a document. So it would help you to build your articles pane. And this neat feature here. Now, if anyone here is familiar with the Paektu checker where it has the screen reader preview for the Matterhorn protocol, it gives you this view. But again, you have to currently make the PDF and then throw it over to this checker, run a check, open up this report, and then you can see it. Now I can see kind of a live preview of all of the structure of this document. And it kind of looks like a DOM, right? It's got the H1, the paragraph style. It's got all my semantic structure of the document is now exposed to me in InDesign with this tool. So I can see that I have a list here, for example. It's well formed. It's a list within a list. So I've got a nice sublist structure. And I can see that I have a table here, and I can see that I have a violation. Anyone want to tell me what the violation is that you can see, if you're able to see the screen? I was looking for no table headers. Okay. It's basically going to go over to TD over in the structure. Oh, yeah, it is in TD. And in addition, that table has a lot of complexity to it, which is we're going to spend the majority of the time reviewing what this tool can do. This piece will also expose all the alternative text in a document for you and help you find the pieces and apply the alternative text to them. For example, I'll go to my presentation deck and say, there's 2 images in there, and here's the alternative text that's applied to them. In addition to that, it will also produce a document that shows you and exposes the alternative text in a document for you and lets you make an interactive PDF of that so you can share it with your proofreaders. So they can tell you that you keyed in the name of your company wrong, which I've another particular issue of mine. Right, so you can put in the metadata, the document title, author. You can also set the language of the page and the language of the part directly with this tool. So those are 2 requirements for language that we take over from the website. Language of the page would be English, and I have one section of this that has German in it because it's a German company. If a screen reader encountered their name and address, I wanted to read in German 1996 reform. It's very important. And then table structure. Pretty good. So this table is pretty unique. This is a balance sheet that's on my screen. Balance sheets are broken into assets and liabilities, and then there are subcategories beneath where there's a parent-child relationship that's required. So if I were to meet success criteria 1.3.1, where I've given the full programmatic equivalent to the visual presentation, I can visually see the difference between those elements. I need to give them programmatically as well. Now, normally in InDesign, what I do is I'll take from assets to 2011 and say that's a table header. It passes the automated checker and I'm out. That's pretty weak. InDesign won't even allow you currently to apply row headers. And these are clearly row headers. So that's all work that you'd have to do over in Acrobat. And every time you make the PDF, you do it over and over and over again. And if you were to do it correctly, if you were to really get that parent-child relationship, it would take you hours in touch-up reading order tool, or you have to invest in a tool like Common Look. So I'm going to show you how I can build that complexity, that parent-child relationship in here in like maybe under a minute. Somebody want to time me? Let's see. So, okay, go now. All right, so I'm going to activate these smart headers here. All right, I'm under the gun now. All right, so I'm going to take these first 2 headers and I'm going to say that content applies to that header, that content applies to that header, that content applies to that header, all the way down. I'm going to take that header and say 1, 2 headers apply to it. Okay? I'm going to take that header. I'm going to say only those things apply to that, and only these things apply to that. And you guys are row headers for that, and you guys are row headers for that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And since I'm being timed, I'm not going to talk now.
Row headers. And row headers and...
Done. 45 seconds. So that process in touch-up reading order tool I'd be here till like tomorrow morning doing that. Good time that one. And then if I were to do this in Common Look, I'd have to do, let's say I could do it that fast in Common Look. Now every time you make that PDF, you do it again and again and again and again. So that's a chore, that's right. So that's going to hinder your efficiency, and I would think your quality too. So the last step in this process will be to make a PDF. This will make a PDF UA compliant PDF. If you're familiar with how to do that, you're really just setting a piece of metadata in the XMP metadata placard that says the PDF UA identifier is on. Now I can do that here in Acrobat, or excuse me, in InDesign by going down to the metadata placard and saying this is a PDF UA compliant document, or I could just use their tool, which has it embedded right in. I do not want to save this. This is my source file. I'm sorry, I forgot to. All right, so I make the PDF. It will render using the interactive PDF export settings. Oh, and this doesn't have the. All right, so I'm going to open up that PDF that I just created. I'm going to show you yet another tool. This one's called Calais PDF Go to HTML. What this is going to do is to render that same structure view, but it has like this cool interactive feature in here. And now you can see all the table headers that have been applied. That's all the work that we just did. Now watch when I hover over these pieces. You can see that it says accounts receivable is a row header for 2012 and 2011, and that it relates up to current assets, as opposed to these other pieces, which relate up to different areas. That's achieved through creating cell IDs. Now, you could do that in HTML as well. I don't think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a tool that does that in HTML. So, right? Yeah. Where's this guy? PDF, huh? I told you. No. So, pretty cool. If you want to order this software, the contact information is at the end of the document that I'll have online for free. I do have actually some flyers for that piece as well. Any questions on Axio Made to Tag? How cool it is, what it can do?
What's the price point?
It's 149 euros. I just had a look.
It's going up. I'll give you the flyer. Yeah, it's not going to break the bank, especially if you saw the stuff that it can do. And if you have to make actual compliant complex tables, I don't think there's a price that they could charge high enough for that. Okay. And now, as promised, for you, sir, forms. Ooh. So Adobe InDesign is completely capable of making interactive forms, and to do them, I have my air quotes, accessibly. It's as accessible as you can get them in PDF format. And like we talked about all those things that were wrong with PDF, and there's a lot of them that are apparent here. Web forms are better than PDF forms. I'll say it. Web forms are better than PDF forms. I'll say it again. You're right. But most forms are paper, and they put them on the line. And there's a lot of places where you're not going to get around that. State requirements, federal requirements, business requirements. People like to grab a piece of paper, especially like a financial professional is going to interview you, like, oh, you're looking to buy a house. Start filling out the form. And there's always an online version of that. So yes, that online version has to be accessible, and it's preferred that it's interactive as well. Now, when I was developing some training programs for people who are using InDesign to make those forms, the process was ready to break, and I'm glad accessibility broke it. They were making a static design, creating the interactive elements in Acrobat, applying them. And then when changes were made, they would redo the static design in InDesign, make a new PDF, static, flat. Take the interactive one and do something called replace pages, so all the interactive elements would come over, and then they'd fuss with them. Now you add accessibility to that, and you're done. There's no way, because you have to go and manually tag all those interactive elements and order them. It's completely unsustainable. So I convinced them, get out of that process and get into InDesign solely as your authoring tool. So make the interactive PDF, interactive accessible PDF from InDesign to PDF. And they were down with it until we get to these requirements where they had to produce manual formatting on elements, on some of the text inputs. They call them combs. Wrong. No. Yeah, sure. So you see these boxes underneath date of birth and social security number. They're open at the top. Looks like a comb. Comb. Okay, so when you type into the interactive element, the text fits into those little boxes. And to do that today, in Acrobat, it's a manual step. You have to right-click, go to Properties, and say it's a comb value of 3 or 4 or whatever. So my training broke. I was really up a creek. I wasn't going to conduct the training. I was going to say, don't use this tool. Let's go ship it all to a vendor. I can't build a process for you that works. Interestingly enough, so in my research, I found FormMaker Pro. It's not an accessibility tool. It's a form formatting tool for Adobe InDesign that has a really great use in the workflow. So what it allows you to do is take the text input in InDesign and put in manual formatting. So I can choose the font, the color, the size, and a lot of different attributes. And that will carry over to the PDF. I can also do something pretty interesting here, that I can put in custom JavaScript validation. That will also carry over. And I can format these combs. So you see I have a bunch of X's. So date of birth and the first 2 comb values says XX. And that's how you run the script. So the script lives in the script library like any other. InDesign has tons of scripts, if you're not familiar with it. Like you can see to make this the state combo box, I used something called Combo Mambo. Right, so I took a text file of all 50 states and I dumped it over in this thing. And the JavaScript basically just grabs all that stuff in and throws it in with InDesign's API. It's pretty cool. Combo Mambo wasn't. I don't want to get totally off with that. FormMaker, but I'm just telling you, it's quite common within InDesign workflows to have a lot of scripts. So Adobe can't figure out every single thing you're going to do with their program. So people create these custom scripts, and this is what FormMaker Pro is. It's a custom script. And what it's going to do is it's going to take all those formatting values, so text size, font color, weight, in this case, JavaScript, custom JavaScript, and it's going to take in those comb formatting and save it into the document metadata. And then bring it over to Acrobat, and I'm going to extract that metadata down, and it's going to live in the document. So that quick, like 2-button thing, as opposed to going and manually formatting every single element. It saved the training that I did, and can't say enough good things about it. So all you do is you double click and it says FormMaker data has been successfully stored. So it just took all that stuff, all those cool attributes about those text elements, put it up into the document metadata. And the cool thing, it doesn't really change the file size dramatically. So when I export that PDF, I just use the regular exporting features. And then I'm over here, and right now, I have no formatting, right? So this is what it would look like if you don't, right? It doesn't know that there's a comb right there for the date of birth. So what I have to do is go and say, please take down that metadata that's stored in this file and apply it to these form elements. And it just did it, boom, like as fast as I clicked the button. And now, I've got some leftover formatting here. which is taken out really quickly by saying clear the form. And there you go. So now I can start typing. And this font, I probably could have picked a cooler font for this demonstration. But it is 11 Times New Roman, the new hotness. You know what I mean? And then you've got your standard combo box, fine. The custom JavaScript that I put on, I don't write JavaScript. Someone like, you might know somebody who writes awesome JavaScript. I don't. I found this on the forums for free. So this one's going to say, did you put in 5 numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you didn't. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, you did. And now the combs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, all the comb values are now present in there. And then the email, does it have an @ symbol? No, it does not. Okay, and now you're good. Whoops, so you get the idea. So that's FormMaker Pro, also reasonably priced. I think I wrote to the developer, he did put his prices in. $149 US for FormMagic, that doesn't have a JavaScript, and then $249 for the version that does have a JavaScript available. And with JavaScript custom validations, you could do just about anything. And I'm only 4 minutes over my time, so it's 49 minutes. I was supposed to take 45. So that cuts into your questions. Significant, no. And now we're open. That's the end of my presentation. Now I have for questions. Thank you. Oh, you, sir.
Firstly, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have two questions. One is I work for a city agency where we manage a part of nyc.gov that lists tons and tons and tons of PDF forms. And a few months ago, Wale was here for this. I made a how to do accessible PDF guide for our not so tech-savvy content writers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any recommendations for explaining PDFs to people who, by and large, are not only not making the PDFs, but are not exactly the most computer literate folks out there?
Yes. I've built web-based trainings that kind of help bridge that gap. And I start at a level of describing what a tag is, describing what a heading is, describing what heading nesting is important. So it was through training, and it was not a quick training. It was about an 8-hour training, and I didn't get full results, to be honest with you. Some people glom on, and some people they tune out as soon as you say tag. XML, HTML, not me, I'm out. But the people that did, I had success with, it was breaking down the concepts, the core concepts of accessibility into structure, and always using a screen reader as well. So pulling up a list of headings, pulling up a list of links, and showing those navigation features kind of drove home. But I think too that spreadsheet that I built, the column B, where you're writing in the natural language, and then maybe having some examples of do and don't, good and bad, and then also breaking down in that structure. There's some things that they just don't need to know, where it's too much information. So finding those people and saying, you're the person who writes the content. I need you to look at these 5 things and really nothing else. So is that a good answer? Do you have another question too? Is it 2-part?
It's 2 separate questions.
Okay.
The other one is we sometimes work with PDF forms that are bilingual or have significant content in another language, usually Spanish or Chinese. And I noticed that you put part of your form in in German, and I was just wondering if you could show me how you did that.
Are you using InDesign?
Sometimes, but sometimes I'm like checking a form that someone
Is it-
else with InDesign made.
So I can show you in InDesign. Is that okay if I just show you in InDesign? So if I were to make some text form, then I want to find the palette. That's text. So you're putting me on the spot a little bit. There we go. There it is. So we can set the language in two areas. One's the language of the page, which would be set on the export. So Adobe InDesign CC 2017 is a different export feature. So when I go to make the interactive PDF now, it's going to ask me what the language of the document is. So that could be English. Normally, you create a base in English, and then you translate into another language. Okay? And then, so the language of the part, you can identify here under the character palette. So pick an easy one, maybe? I don't know. But there's so many Germans. I don't know. I don't know why there's like 8 Germans. What he said, I don't know. Spanish. Right, so I just told InDesign that paragraph, so that text frame was a different language. And the way InDesign creates tags is it recognizes the text frame and then whatever paragraph style you put inside of it. So it should wrap that container. And now when a screen reader hits that, it will read it in a different accents and functionality in the language completely.
So it's not so different then from the way I do it already in Microsoft Word.
Yeah, Word. Oh, you could do that in Word? Yeah. Oh, of course I knew that. I was just seeing if you knew that.
Whether Word knows what to do with it later.
Yeah, I haven't really tested it from Word. Actually, I've never tested this with a screen reader. I wouldn't know if it was doing it right or wrong. I don't speak other languages, so it'd be useful to test that. I'd be happy to, if you want to work on that, I'd be happy to write with you. Other questions?
I guess a lot of this premise is that you're looking at on a browser or the web, understandably, but let's say if it's native on a particular device, let's say manuals or something like that, the PDF that's on that device or something, and they're supposed to read off of that.
So let's talk about a persona. They who?
A user?
With an assistive technology, the screen reader?
Yeah, perhaps.
I have never tested a PDF being read aloud on like VoiceOver, for example. I've tested them on JAWS.
On what?
JAWS?
On JAWS, right.
That's really the only screen reader testing that I've ever done with PDF.
So I've done some,
Okay.
and hopefully I'm loud enough that this can get through to everybody. The only PDF viewer that I know of, let me get closer.
Inaudible.
Okay, over here at the table. The only PDF viewer that I know of for certain that actually allows you to access all of the different kinds of accessibility metadata and tagging in PDFs is just Adobe's and only in Windows. So most viewers will give you some basic text information, but a lot of the tagging, like what you demonstrated with the tables, for instance, most screen readers and most other PDF viewers would not be able to handle that. And I'm sincerely hoping that somebody can correct this in like a comment on YouTube or on Twitter, because it would be awesome to find another viewer that actually does work with PDFs, because right now the situation's pretty dire, where it's like if you want an accessible PDF, it means you have to be using Windows and JAWS.
So I'll qualify too that my testing has been with Acrobat Professional and JAWS. So not a common tool for people to have, I suppose. I guess I could be testing in Reader at the very least, but at the desktop application, not within a web viewer. So this would be a situation where you have downloaded the PDF and you're reading it off a desktop.
I know that people don't print manuals anymore, and they distribute them as PDF files, apparently, and they're deemed accessible, but then if you put it on a device, like, that's not Windows, which like only 1% or less is Windows actually on mobile devices, like what does the person do?
So actually I forgot one, which was kind of silly, because I work at Google, and the other one...
This is running live.
Chrome actually is in the process. I think they are just about done, if they haven't finished already a month ago. I just got back from vacation, so who knows, one of those. They just completely redid how they do their PDF handling within the Chrome browser. And so before, it was just flat text that wasn't terribly helpful. And now it actually has semantic structure, and screen readers can latch onto it. So great for that.
Okay.
Do you have to use Chromebox as the reader, or can you use JAWS Interactive, like to interact with that?
So right now, Chrome officially completely supported is with Chrome Fox in Chrome OS. However, Chrome has made a lot of improvements to how it works with other screen readers. So it works fairly well with VoiceOver and Mac OS, and it works fairly well and improving very rapidly with both NVDA and with JAWS on Windows.
NVDA as well, using the Acrobat Reader, had some success. Like it would read table captions in the PDF, where no other reader would do that.
So you pros, you actually have to open up the PDF in
Yes.
a browser.
Not a browser, the application. So Reader. So you have a download Reader
Right.
and use Reader if you want, I guess, success with a screen reader.
Speaking of web, I've often seen requirements where a web application needs to export something to a PDF format that could otherwise be represented in HTML or already is represented in HTML. I've seen a bunch of hacks around this, like taking a screenshot programmatically of a HTML page and then saving it to a PDF format, etc. So my question is about tools for exporting HTML to properly tagged PDFs. And this is an open question. If you don't know anything specific.
No, I've only experimented with the opposite of taking PDF and trying to make, so because I had the tool to do the cell ID tagging, I was like, oh, well, let me just give HTML to my developer from InDesign and to kind of backtrack out, and that was not successful. So I've never tried it the other way of doing HTML formatting. So,
Right.
I mean, then if you have anything like any area attributes, that wouldn't go over. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, I guess some of the semantics of HTML should map pretty closely to PDF format. But I did some research, I couldn't find anything. So this would also be something for anyone that's watching out on the internet or who picks this up afterwards, comment on the YouTube video or the Meetup video. I think that would be useful to a lot of people.
Yeah, just one thing to note, I've seen a few JavaScript plugins who handle it now where you can like dynamically generate a PDF from a web page, and all of those do it the image way, so that will never be able to be made accessible properly. There are a few that I know that are like, I think one's called PDF to HTML. It's like a back-end thing that actually sits on your web server. That'll do it, but you from a front end side, you can't really handle it, and like the view, you have to move to like what like MVC architecture calls like the controller to really handle that. I think it's called PDF to HTML or something. I don't really remember the name off the top though.
This one has
Yeah.
PDF to HTML here that I have on my screen, but it's using it to kind of preview, right? What would your file look like in different? I don't know if you can export out from this.
Sign that can sit in the middleware.
Yeah, if there's answers, it'd probably be net-centric, working on stuff like that.
It's all like proprietary, give them your money kind of deal.
Any other questions? Going once, twice, closed.
All right.
Thank you guys very much.
Well, we've concluded the speaking portion of the evening. Thank you, Adrian, and thanks again to all of you. It's 8:10 now. I'd like to go home fairly soon, and I have to be here until all of you are gone. So let's try to be out of here at like 8:30, and I'll remind you. So 15, 20 minutes, hang out, talk, ask questions to Adrian if you have. Actually, no, Adrian's going home, so don't ask Adrian questions. But ask each other questions. Thanks again. Thanks.